Hi friends, Krista here. Thanks for stopping by my channel, Books and Jams. Again, today is January 1st. Yay! I am not sure that this video is going up on January 1st, but it's still. Today is January 1st. Happy New Year. I'm so excited to start a new year. I love starting a fresh planner. I love starting new goals. I am just very excited for the year. But before we get too far into 2020, I need to wrap up December. So I know that I did a mid-month wrap-up sometime in the middle of December when I was doing Vlogmas videos, but honestly I can't remember which books I read and which books I talked about, and I could have gone back and looked at that video, but I decided not to. So I'm just going to talk about all the books that I read in December. There are 10 of them, and don't you love this scarf? My brother Jeremiah gave me this scarf for Christmas. It's one of those big square ones, and I just don't know necessarily how to always wear it, so I just kind of draped it around me for now. Love it. It's very pretty, and it matches my yellow sweater. Fun. So what I'm going to do with my books this time, which I don't think I've really ever done before, I normally talk about my books in the order of how I read them in the month. Today, because I don't necessarily remember the order, they got all out of order because of best of the year videos, all that stuff. Today I'm going to talk about them from least favorite to favorite, or at least like least amount of stars to most amount of stars. Within the stars, I didn't really decide which was more a favorite than the others, but that's okay. So I'm going to start with the ones I didn't care for. Most unliked book of the month was Pride and Prejudice and Mistletoe by Melissa de la Cruz. This is a Pride and Prejudice retelling, clearly, set during Christmas time, a modern Pride and Prejudice retelling, and a little bit gender swapped. So our main character is Darcy Fitzwilliam, who is a super privileged woman, grew up in a super rich family in Ohio, but then went out on her own and made something of herself in New York, became like a millionaire, whatever. I didn't really care for her. She comes home for the Christmas season and connects with Luke Bennett, who she was always kind of bickering with and kind of had this rivalry with during high school. They are starting to argue and then realize they're under the mistletoe, and then they kiss very passionately and all of these pent-up emotions. And it's a little bit ridiculous. I didn't like the characters. I did not get sucked into the story. It didn't have any charm. And something that I love about Jane Austen's work is that she's very like sarcastic and witty and charming in her stories. And this just didn't have any of that. I just didn't care for it at all. I gave it 2 stars. It was a quick read. I flew through it in like an evening, but meh. Another one that I was a little disappointed that I didn't like more is Christina Lauren's Twice in a Blue Moon. This is their most recent. This is an author duo. Christina and Lauren are 2 women who write together, write contemporary romance. Typically, I give contemporary romance 3 stars, so I was kind of expecting to give this 3 stars, and it probably was, like, as far as quality of writing, definitely like a 3 star. But there wasn't the depth or the, I don't know, in my romances that I read, I like there to be more to the story than just the romance, and this one, I didn't care for the more to the story part. We follow this girl, I already forgot her name and I just read it yesterday. Sam and Tate. So we're following Sam and Tate. Tate, when she's 18, her grandmother brings her to London where she meets Sam, who is 21. They have a whirlwind kind of relationship, vacation fling, but they like really fell in love and spent a lot of time together. But it turns out Tate has this secret from her past. She bears her soul. Sam is the first person that Tate really opens up about her life to, and Sam, for reasons that we learn later, totally sells her out, basically. They don't speak for 14 years, but apparently this 2-week relationship in London really affected both of them. And they come back together on a movie set 14 years later where Sam is the screenwriter and Tate is the main actress in this movie. I don't know. I just didn't care for the characters. I didn't care for the storyline. Maybe like Lala from Books and Lala, I don't really care for books where there's famous people because I didn't care for it. She has a really rocky relationship with her father, and I was hoping for some kind of resolution there, and there really wasn't. No redemption, no like wrapping up that relationship or that storyline. I mean, the father was kind of an idiot and he stayed an idiot all the way through, which is fine. Sometimes that's reality. But yeah, this one I didn't care for. I gave it 2 stars. So, bummer that. Another holiday read that I finished is Christmas with Anne. I got rid of the desk jacket of this one because I didn't like it. Now I wish I kind of kept it, but that's okay. This is a collection of short stories by Ella Montgomery. There are 16 stories in this little tiny book, and I gave this 3 stars. I absolutely love Ella Montgomery's writing. This has the charm that I was missing in the other ones. My favorite 2 stories in here are the ones that feature Anne, obviously, because she's a fave, always and forever. But the other problem, which isn't necessarily a problem, but the other thing that I didn't really care for as much is that some of the stories started to feel very much the same. These 2 people had, sometimes relatives, sometimes friends, had some kind of a falling out. Pride kept them from communicating for a long time, and then the holidays bring them back together. This was kind of the overarching plot line of quite a few of the stories in this book. So by the end, I was like, can we just finish this already? So while it was very sweet, very festive, lovely to read at Christmas time and New Year's, because the last 3 or 4 stories revolve around New Year's. So I finished this last night on New Year's Eve, and so that was a nice way to end the year. But it's not going to be among my favorites of Ella Montgomery, but I'm not going to get rid of it because it's Ella Montgomery, and I love her. Now on to my 4-star reads of the year. I finished up a series of middle grade books, companion middle grade books, more than a series, but this is by Kate DiCamillo. It's Beverly Right Here. The first one is Raimi Nightingale, then we have Louisiana Comes Home, and then this one is Beverly Right Here. These 3 girls we meet in the first book, Raimi Nightingale. They each are very distinct and unique characteristics and tough situations that all 3 of them have to deal with. Beverly start this book with her running away from home, and this takes place after the events of the first 2 books. So we see her running away from home. She feels very, very alone and feels like nobody really cares or wants to, she doesn't know where her place really is. Her dog, her beloved dog, who was truly her best friend, has just died, and that's kind of the final straw for her. So she leaves her home, travels not very far away to a town, maybe, I don't know how far away, but travels to this other town. She's 14, I think, in this book, on the older edge of middle grade. But she ends up getting a job, lying about her age, getting a job, and this older woman kind of takes her in randomly. It's about Beverly making friendships and allowing herself to connect with people. I feel like she has been so isolated, and part of that's her own doing and part of that's just her situation, but she's allowed herself to open up and the found family that she connects with in this new town. I love Kate DiCamillo's writing. I feel like it's not as simplistic maybe as some other middle grade books. It's very beautifully written, very heartwarming, and I laughed and cried in this one. Loved it. Very beautiful. 4 stars. A fun contemporary romance that I picked up is The Bromance Book Club by Lyssa Kay Adams. And this is a very atypical read for me, but I couldn't resist. I think I did talk about this one in my mid-month wrap-up, so I'm not going to talk too much about it here. This is a romance about a husband and wife, which I feel like we need more of that. The husband and wife, their relationship is very much on the rocks. He finds out that his wife has been faking it in their marriage, for their whole marriage, and is very distraught by this, doesn't handle it well. Anyways, he leaves their home, but his guy friends, many of whom are other professional athletes as he is, they kind of coerce him to join this book club that they have where they read historical romances to learn how to understand their wives and the way that their wives think, or their significant others, and also to help heal some of those relationships. So he reads historical romance in order to work on his relationship with his wife, which was just so much fun. For those who ask, because a lot of you do, there is some language in this and there is some sexy time scenes between the husband and wife, but still, it's not completely closed door. We're in there with them just a little bit. So there's that. But I really enjoyed this one, and I think we need more fight for my marriage romance books out there in the world. I don't read enough romance to know if there are more, but yeah. Next I have a 4-star and a 5-star, but in the same series we have a boy, this is the first one, A Boy Called Christmas by Matt Haig, and The Girl Who Saved Christmas, also by Matt Haig, obviously. I gave A Boy Called Christmas 5 stars and The Girl Who Saved Christmas 4 stars. I don't really know why, but this one definitely stands out to me more than this one. That's probably the reason. This is a lovely, so much fun Christmas time middle grade series. I believe there's one more and a novella that's kind of like in between these two, I think. But I believe there's one more in the series that I haven't yet read. And I'm debating now if I just want to save it for next year or just go pick it up and finish up the series. We'll see. A Boy Called Christmas is kind of a origin story of Santa Claus. And we follow this boy named Nicholas. His father leaves to go find out if elves are real and prove to the king if elves are real. He leaves Nicholas in the care of his Aunt Carlotta, who is a horrible woman. Nicholas strikes out on his own to go try to find his father. He travels through towns and woods and practically dies when he reaches the other side of the mountain. And along the way, he travels with a little mouse and meets a reindeer and ends up in the elf village. It's just so lovely. I'm reading this aloud still to the family of kids that I watch. The older two, the 6-year-old and the 8-year-old. Actually, they're 7 and 9 now, and they're loving it. So it's a lot of fun to do as a read aloud. And this one just made me laugh multiple times. There's just so many cute little scenes in there. I can't tell you much about this one. This one does pick up where this first one left off. So we meet a character at the very end of this one who plays a big role in this one. We continue to follow Nicholas in his story, but it just is a lovely Christmas read. I highly recommend them, especially if you have younger children. Now we're into the 5 stars. I have 3 left. I read Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. I might have read this when I was quite young. I don't remember actually reading the book. I remember seeing the movie, the 90s version, and I actually am not a fan of the 90s version of the movie. It always makes me mad when I watch it because I just hate Amy so much. And younger me wanted Joe to end up with Laurie, and I wanted Joe to be able to go to Europe with Aunt March, and Amy destroys the manuscript, all of these things, and I just was so mad at Amy all the time. Upon reread, I really liked Professor Bear. I love the sisters. I love how advanced Louisa May Alcott is as far as her portrayal of women. I don't know when this was first written. 1868. Okay, so this was first written like after the Civil War, 1800s. And Louisa May Alcott really, I love her portrayal of women. Each of the March sisters are very different. Meg has visions of grandeur, wants to be a lady, have nice things. It ends up being content marrying a school teacher, a tutor, and loving him, still wanting those nice things, but also being very happy as a wife and a mother. Amy, the youngest, is artistic and very talented artist and very knows that she's going to marry for money and goes to Europe to learn her art and be a companion to their wealthy aunt, and very proper. And then there's Joe, who is like wild and very much a tomboy and wants to do her own thing and is an avid writer and never wants to be married, never wants anything to do with boys. And then sweet Beth, who everyone just coddles and adores, but has the most kind and loving heart, very, very shy, super introverted. They're just all so unique and lovely. I kind of chuckled at all the morality tales that are in here. I mean, that's very much a product of its time, I think, for a female writer. Those things needed to be included, but Marmee, the mom, is constantly telling tales and helping them to see what's morally right in the different situations, and is a huge emphasis on character and virtues in this book as well. I just adored it. I just loved it so much. This I listened to on audiobook while I traveled to New York for Christmas and then back to Virginia. So it was my car time companion. And on Christmas Day, I did go and see the new adaptation, and I absolutely, absolutely loved it. I can't wait to go see it again already. So fantastic. Loved Little Women. So glad that I read it. I read one more middle grade this year, and it was The Vanderbeekers in the Hidden Garden. You guys know I loved the first Vanderbeekers, and I am thrilled that I picked up the second book in this little series. We continue to follow the 5 children, well, really 4 in this one. One of them is away at a camp, for a music camp for a few weeks. This takes place over 2 or 3 weeks in the summertime, and these children are starting to get bored. They're just in their neighbor's house upstairs complaining about being bored, and their neighbor challenges them to find something to do. Their neighbor upstairs gets really sick and spends some time in the hospital, and these kids decide to take over this lot next to the church that is an abandoned garden. They pick the lock and they go in, and they create... Their goal is to create a beautiful garden for when their neighbor comes home from the hospital as a surprise for him. I love all the nods to The Secret Garden. I love the relationship between these kids. I love the friends that they make in this one. We have a couple new characters in this one. And I absolutely love it. I think it's so sweet, and definitely a 5-star read for me as well. And finally, I think I talked about this in my mid-month wrap-up. Now I can't remember. I might not have been done with it yet. But this, Just Mercy by Bryan Stevenson, I talked about at length in my Best Books of the Year video because this was my favorite book of 2019. So good. And it's nonfiction. Yay! This has been sitting on my shelves for years, and I finally got to it this year, which I'm thrilled about. Bryan Stevenson is a lawyer who started Equal Justice Initiative in Alabama, which is a company that fights for justice. It's a nonprofit, I should say, that fights for justice. And in this book, he talks about people who have been incarcerated either for life or on death row who were wrongfully incarcerated. And we read the stories of many of these people that he has worked with and that his team has worked with to help exonerate them, to help get them released from prison, to change their sentence, to let the truth prevail. It was staggering, emotional, infuriating, so sad, very difficult to read, not in its writing style. The writing style was very easy to read. I could have probably read through it much quicker, but I made myself stop and take time because it just was so heavy at times. Unbelievable that some of these situations happened within my lifetime in the United States. We're hearing Bryan Stevenson's perspective on things, so we're not getting any other sides of the story. So there may be some bias represented there, but I still found it to be so important, so difficult, and I'm so glad that I finally read this book. So if you want to hear more, you can check out my Best Books of the Year video where I do talk about that a little bit more. So good. Here are the 10 books that I read in the month of January. It was a pretty decent reading month overall. I'm very pleased. I loved revisiting middle grades. I'm kind of bummed I had some low ones in there, but overall, I'm very pleased with my reading this month. I would love to chat with you down in the comments. What was your January? I think I said January earlier. Those are my December reads. I would love to hear what your favorite book of December was, or your best book of the year. If now the year is over, I know some people wait until the very end of the year before they decide that. Let's chat down in the comments about these books, about the books that you loved during the month of December, about what you're looking forward to in January, about anything you want to talk about. You guys know I love talking with you down in the comments. And give this video a big thumbs up, like it, subscribe, hit the bell, all those things. You know the drill. Happy New Year. I'm so glad you're here. I've said it before and I'll say it again. You guys are the best part about this journey. And I'll be talking to you in another video very soon. Bye.